I have a bone to pick with MatPat. See, every time he makes a food theory on something, it ruins that food just a little bit more because he describes to me why it's not good. And this time, he's gone off after one of my favorite beverages, tea and coffee. So we're gonna check it out. We're gonna see exactly what MatPat has to say about this. As the tea connoisseur of this community, as a British man, but not really as a coffee enjoyer. I dabble in coffee sometimes. I'm not the massive biggest coffee enjoyer out there, but maybe this food theory will help. Is coffee a soup? Well, we're about to find out. Let's have a look.
So we've been having an argument about whether or not coffee is soup or not. She says it is soup. I say...
What is a soup? I would say a soup is a meal that requires or can deliver a decent amount of nutrition to you. A lot of vitamins, a lot of minerals, things like that. So does coffee classify as a soup? I don't think so. It's like saying that maybe yogurt is a soup because it's slightly liquidy and it can provide that. But I don't think that yogurt is a soup. So I'm going to say that coffee is not a soup. That doesn't make sense.
Soup.
Okay, first off, you do drink soup. Like, you can ladle soup. It's just broth, right?
No, but slurp soup, you drink coffee.
Campbell's made a whole thing about, like, drinking soup.
What type of soup would it be?
You could, okay, to play devil's advocate here, you could eat coffee because you can whip it up. You can make the dalgona coffee that everyone was making. Remember those TikToks? Do you guys remember these? At the start of lockdown? And everyone started making these weird, like, coffee contraptions because no one had anything better to do. It was this and banana bread that everyone started to make. And you could whip this stuff up. I was going to do this. I never ended up doing it. But it looks pretty good. You technically, right, you could say that you are eating this because that's not a thing that you drink. That's more solid. So you can eat coffee. So it doesn't necessarily...
Bean soup?
No.
No, I think it's
the
water.
beans. The beans aren't in the soup.
It's not beanstalk. It's not like chicken. It's not like beef.
Okay, I think we got our episode. Amy's chugging her bean broth right now.
Don't say that!
Is it bean broth? I don't know. I think that's kind of a weird one. Bean broth. That's so strange.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Food Theory, the show that gets asked all the time how we come up with episode topics, and, well, you just saw it. That meeting at the top of the episode was exactly what gave rise to the video that you're watching right now.
I need a group like this that can come together and I can be like, oh, what Pokemon video am I gonna make next? And someone just chime in with the, could you eat a Gardevoir? I mean, if you did, what would it taste like?
Editor Dan was having a nerdy debate with his wife, and so we decided to stick our noses into his business and settle it once and for all. Because that's what you do when you make online content. You monetize your personal life. You see, back when this channel first launched, we covered what makes a sandwich a sandwich. That simple question sent us on a wild goose chase through...
I think it's context dependent. I don't think that there is a certain way that you can make a sandwich. It's all context dependent because there's so many different types of bread that you can put something in. You call a sandwich whatever you think looks like a sandwich, okay? If you think a Subway sub looks like a sandwich, you call it a sandwich. I call those a sandwich. I'm not gonna call a slice of pizza a sandwich though. It's all what you feel. That's what language is. It's all things that you feel make sense. And at the end of the day, nothing else matters. As long as that is what, well, I mean, it does. I mean, definitions do matter. You can't just go ahead and call the Bible a sandwich, even though it sandwiches the pages technically. Well, you could. Could you eat the Bible? If you ate is it sacrilege to eat the Bible?
Court rulings, international tax law, and legal loopholes to ultimately find that the definition of a sandwich in some areas includes burritos, pizza, even chicken wings. Yep.
No, that's dumb. I don't.
Which
no.
could never be
do not take
a
that.
sandwich by any reasonable
I don't take that,
person
MatPat.
ever. Yet there was defined as a sandwich by certain Colorado tax laws. But you see, those are the absurdly high...
You know what? I'm just gonna say it. I don't think all laws are correct.
Stakes that we're dealing with in episodes like this. For as dumb and random as questions like, is coffee actually bean soup might seem, decisions around these definitions actually impact your pocketbook, as well as the bottom lines for both restaurants and the government. As an example of how the legal definition of coffee can lead to high-stakes legal battles, in 2014, a pair of people sued Target because they had been charged sales tax for their to-go order of coffee. Why would they have a problem with that? Well, California has a sales tax exemption for certain products, which include, quote, coffee and coffee substitutes.
Oh my god, libertarian Andy used to be like,
Actually, the statute right here specifies that I should not be charged for the coffee and coffee substitutes on this, therefore you charging me sales tax is illegal. And I know my rights.
Are you detaining me?
Cocoa and cocoa products. And yet here was Target charging them the sales tax. Seems like Target was clearly in the wrong here, right? Well, then you get to the tricky part. Under California
Mate, who
tax
cares?
law, you're
It's
charged different
it's like
tax
25
rates
cents
depending
or
on whether
whatever.
you're getting hot or cold food. If you're just getting cold food, say a sandwich to go, you pay a lower tax rate. If you're getting something hot, like say a hot bowl of soup, then you pay a higher tax. But if that wasn't weird enough, it gets even stranger. If you're
Yeah,
getting
that is
multiple
weird.
food items, suddenly that becomes a meal. And if there's any hot food product in there whatsoever, then the entire thing is taxed as a hot meal. So what does any of this have to do with coffee? Well, that California tax code
Why do they make
lists
different
coffee
taxes
as
for
an
this? This is so
example of a
strange.
hot food product. By its inclusion in a meal, it transforms the entire thing into a hot meal and gets it taxed higher. Cold sandwich, tax
Wait,
exempt.
what? A hot meal is coffee? Does that mean it's part of the meal? Do they classify it as the soup then? That's so strange.
Hot coffee, tax exempt. Cold sandwich plus hot coffee. Suddenly you've gotten yourself a hot meal and both parts are getting taxed at the higher rates. Like when you
In what way
multiply
is that
two
a hot
negative
meal?
numbers to get a positive. Eat two tax exempt food items together and you get to spend more on taxes. In the end, Target won the case. As the court said in its opinion on the verdict, the exemptions that may or may not apply to different food products are, quote, exceedingly closely regulated, complex, and highly technical. And as Matt
That's basically a long way of saying I don't fucking know how it works.
said in his opinion on the verdict is dumb. But can case law help us settle our head editor Dan's domestic debate? Well, looking deeper into the legalese around the classification of soups and coffees, what immediately becomes clear is that tax
I can just imagine now that any time that MatPat has like an argument with his wife, he turns it into a game theory or a film theory or a food theory. I imagine that. Oh God, that's super good for healthy relationships.
with how the coffee is served and how you order it rather than what's actually in it. For example, many states have sales tax regulations that say if you go to Starbucks and pick up one of those pre-made
My wife told me that we should be putting our kids to bed a half an hour earlier, so that's why I started my new channel, Parenting Theory.
frappuccinos that come in a glass bottle, you don't have to pay sales tax. Whereas if you went to the barista and asked him to make you a frappuccino made with the exact same ingredients and had it served in a plastic cup, then you would be paying sales tax. And then you have Pennsylvania, where brewed coffee that comes out of a vending machine normally gets taxed, but it's not taxed if it comes out of the vending machine in a cold bottle. So it seems today we need to be focused more on the culinary definitions of these food preparations rather than the legal ones. So from a culinary perspective, is coffee bean soup? Is it vegetable juice? Is it bean broth? Is it something
No, it's dirty bean water.
else?
Oh, but then again, it's not always water. But it is tainted by the beans. So, how do we...
Entirely. Well, if you
Seed
look,
water.
all of these classifications are made
It's not
up
water,
of a
though.
first word that describes the food type and a second word that describes the liquid form. So to
I'd say if anything, it must be some kind of juice, right? No, if it's warm, then it has to be a broth. It's got to be a broth.
our answer, let's tackle one of these at a time. Right out of the gate, though, it's time to tell our head editor Dan the words that he's always wanted to hear. Hey Dan, can you come into the booth?
Yeah, it's good news for me.
Dan, you're right. Your wife is wrong. Coffee is
You can't say that. Oh no, you can't plant that seed in his head. No, if he goes back with that kind of mindset, oh, it's all over. SCGs.
definitely
They're divorced
not
now.
bean soup.
That's what I'm talking about. Booyah!
But it's not for the reason you think. Not because of the soup part, but because of the bean part. See, coffee beans aren't actually beans, just like peanuts aren't actually nuts, and koala bears aren't actually bears.
Okay, a bit of a technicality.
No, they're definitely as violent as bears, though.
I'll take the win.
You see, the word bean actually has a very specific definition. Within the flowering plant family of Fabaceae, otherwise known as the legume, pea, or bean family, there are several genuses whose seeds are classified as beans. If you're not part of that specific group, then you are not technically a bean. And
It is a bean. My point is, people call it a bean, therefore it is a bean. And language molds and changes based on how people use it. Like, for example, saying that you are gay used to mean that you were happy. It no longer means that.
coffee is
Because
not
people
part of the
changed how they
club.
use
So
it.
for your wife to say it's a bean soup, she is technically wrong. It may still wind up being a soup, we're gonna get to that in a minute here, but it's definitely not a bean soup. Though, might I suggest not making a big deal of that tonight at dinner? Dunking on your wife for being wrong.
Ah, I knew it. They made a reference to it. Yeah, don't dunk on your wife. Don't come home, slam open the door. She's like, honey, dinner's ready. I made bean soup. And you comment, you slam on the table like, I was right! MatPat said that I was right!
I appreciate the advice. I'm just not going to listen to it.
All right, now back to the editor dungeon, please.
And he is divorced now.
This narrative conceit's getting a bit tiring to keep up. There's plenty of restocked coffee down there for you to inject as you see fit.
I prefer the IV bags.
Okay, so if coffee is a plant, but it's not beans, then is it a vegetable? Well, also no. While an actual bean would be a legume and therefore a vegetable, what we call the coffee bean is actually a seed taken from the fruit of a coffea plant. The fruits of these plants, which are known as cherries or berries, contain 1 or 2 seeds that we then call coffee beans. And just to make matters even more confusing,
So we're just doing it wrong the entire time then. Oh, they look like grapes!
A cherry for similar taxonomical reasons. Let's just leave it at coffee beans aren't beans.
So the cherries in which they house the coffee beans are not cherries, and also they're not
They're the
beans.
seeds of the coffea fruit. So that's the first half of what coffee actually is, but what about the second half of our classification? If coffee is a liquid made from fruit seeds, does that then make it a fruit juice? I mean, that's what pomegranate juice
No,
is
it's a
after
broth
all.
because
Pop
it's
those
hot.
seeds like nature's own bubble wrap and drink the results. Well, no. And it all comes down to the word juice. Juice is technically the drink that's made from the natural liquids contained within a fruit or a vegetable. A liquid
Can you have
that
a hot
is then
juice?
extracted by squeezing or pressing. Squeeze an orange and drink what comes out. Same thing with pomegranate juice. Drink the liquid that's coming out of the seeds. If a product is labeled and sold as juice, it is legally required for the liquid portion to come from a fruit. This also means that fruit-flavored drinks that you make by mixing
But it doesn't come from the fruit. It doesn't come from the cherry, air quotes. It comes from the seed inside of the cherry. So it can't be a juice because it comes from a seed,
powder
right?
like water like Kool-Aid
Am I getting it now?
or Crystal Light are not juices. And you'll notice that they don't advertise themselves that way. They're not allowed to. If you read the packaging for products like this, you'll tend to see stuff like you see on the Crystal Light label here, a sweet alternative to juice. So cross fruit juice off the list. That's it.
It's like the same thing they do with cheese, or the plastic cheese alternative slices, or cheese products.
If you do want to try actual coffee juice, it's a thing you can actually make. In fact, that's exactly what a company called Kona Red did. Rather than throwing the outer part of the coffea fruit away after removing the seeds, they took the fruit and squeezed the juice out of them to create a bottled drink that you can no longer buy because they've gone out of business. Apparently, there's a good reason that part of the plant doesn't make it into the cup of joe that you're sipping every morning. So if it's not a fruit juice, then what does it make it then? A fruit broth, soup, puree, gruel, porridge, gravy? Well, gravy is an easy one to cross
Gravy?
off the list. For as delicious as a slow pouring, thick, viscous coffee gravy might sound, aka not at all delicious, gravies by definition are thickened by adding flour or cornstarch. Definitely not a fit. Porridge
Yo,
and
imagine
gruel
adding
can
flour and cornstarch into your coffee, though. Imagine what would, I don't know,
also
sounds
crossed
kind of
off the list
delicious.
For similar reasons. Those are foods that are made from starchy cereal grains. Don't believe everything you see on TikTok, friends.
I'm trying the coconut water berry
What?
breakfast cereal.
Oh.
Sorry, Lizzo. That is not
That's
cereal.
weird.
That is a bowl of fruit. Also, why did you put random
No, there's ice in it and water? That's not cereal. What is this?
cubes
That
in?
can't
Because
be real.
I just can't. Anyway, cereals are specifically grasses that are cultivated for their edible grain cups like wheat, rice, and barley. Again, not relevant to coffee. Puree is actually promising. A puree, by definition, is made by taking a fruit or vegetable and pressing, blending, sieving, or grinding it. Sounds like the same set of words you'd use to
You ever
describe
grind your apples?
However, what knocks puree out of contention is that the point of grinding, pressing, blending, and sieving is that the food can eventually be consumed. You eat a squash puree, not just the liquid that was run through it. But no matter how much you grind those coffee beans, you are not going to be eating those grounds. The reason
Well, I mean, some weirdos might. There's people out there that eat beans just by themselves. They just eat coffee beans. So
that we grind them up is
technically,
mac-
while you wouldn't like to, it's not really that nice. You could. So technically, it could be a puree.
the surface area so that the flavor can leach out into the hot water that's poured through it. If you mixed the coffee grounds into your final beverage, then sure, that could be considered a puree. But if you drink your coffee like a normal, rational person, then no.
I
not
still
gonna
stand
cut
by
it.
it's a
Which
broth.
brings
It has
us
to be a
down
broth.
To broth or soup. Let's tackle
Yes.
broth first. This one seems like it might apply. A broth or bouillon is made by simmering water together with a mixture of other ingredients. And while yes, most coffee is made using boiling water, some preparations involve simmering. For instance, if you use a percolator, the water technically should never
what?
reach a boil. But even if we were just simmering our coffee beans, we'd have to contend with the fact that broths tend to describe the products of a simmering meat, fish, or vegetable, which are coffee beans.
Well, does it classify as a vegetable? Probably not because it's a seed. Can we just like expand the definition a little bit?
Established is none of. And with that, we're here. The final option. Is coffee a soup? The answer
Coffee's just
yes.
coffee. What?
Yes! Sorry, Dan, but
What?
soup is commonly made by boiling the ingredients to extract their flavor, and boiled water is the most common way to make coffee. But that's not all. One of the classic methods of flavoring soup involves adding ingredients to the boiled water that aren't part of the finished product that you eat. It's common for soups to be made with ingredients that are added for flavor and then removed before serving. Ingredients like bone or spices like bay leaves and rosemary. Exactly
Oh
what we do with the
no.
coffee grind. But is there such a thing as a fruit seed soup? Absolutely. Fruit soups, definitely a thing. Seed soups, also a thing. Squash and nigella seed soup, sunflower seed soup, cotton seed soup, the list
Coffee's
goes on and
a
on.
soup?
But not only are fruit soups and seed soups both a thing, fruit seed soups also very popular. Search for melon seed soup recipes on Google and you'll get millions of results. Stuff like the goosey soup.
Okay, Google results, that doesn't make any sense. I can search for anything and get millions of results on Google. It doesn't even have to be in any way related to what you searched for. It just has to have like the same letters in and it'll give you a result. Go to page like 75 of melon seed soup and see how much melon seed soup you've actually got in that.
A traditional West African dish, or even
That
more
looks good, though.
popular, pumpkin seed soup, a sweet.
Nah, it doesn't look that good.
The only thing that keeps this from being a perfect label is the fact that soup is classically used to describe a food, not a beverage. But hey, with the amount
But you can eat coffee.
of
We
sugar
established
and syrup
that.
some of us add to our coffees, we've already got enough calories to call it a meal. Yeah, that Starbucks Frappuccino has more calories.
God damn, 490 calories.
Blueberry muffin you're
There are some places that serve you coffees that are like over 1,000 calories. It's actually ridiculous.
with it. So there you have it, friends. Coffee is a fruit seed soup, not vegetable juice or bean broth or a legume mash. It is basically the equivalent of tomato soup. Bring that one up the next time you're delivering someone
not
Starbucks
tea,
order.
right?
No one's gonna know what you're talking about. But you can
Tea's
rest
not
confident in
that.
the knowledge
Oh god, tea's a soup as well. Oh god, everything has been ruined. Every mug. Oh, it's just, I don't know. I'm just not really a big soup guy, but I guess I am a big soup guy now, and I guess you're a guy that should subscribe to more patterns.